like that. So I am using the side camera now, so slightly out of perspective, but that doesn't matter. What we're going to do is we're going to get just the main onion itself. We start off with him and just get, we can see he's not white, it's just a little patch of white over here. If you look on the color photo, you can see there's just a little bit of reflected light over there. Okay. So I'm going to start off by just laying down just a basic little tonal value over there. So I'm using my 2H, and all the way through this drawing I'm going to use my chisel point. So I'm going to hold it flat. So all I'm interested in is just getting a nice little even tone all the way across this guy. So I'm basically laying down the lightest tonal value besides that little bit of reflection over there. Then I know no matter what I do all the way across this onion, I've already got that correct tonal value lying down there. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about this top little bit over there. We'll leave him for later. So to get a nice even layer, what I'm doing is I'm just gradually moving across so that the one little layer that I've just put down overlaps the next or the previous one. And there's absolutely no pressure involved. I'm letting the pencil do the work for me. So in other words, if this guy wasn't dark enough, then we just simply have to go across and use a darker pencil, a softer one. And now because I'm pressing so light, at any time I can lift all this out, all the way back to white paper again. That's important. And can you see how flat I'm holding the pencil? And that allows me to do broader shadings because now I've got this long point. So I'm using pretty much quite a length of that because I'm holding this pencil so flat. And that also helps me get nice smooth shadings. Alright, so in here, a little cracked bit over there. So as far as possible, do work in the correct directions, so that if you do get any lines showing through, then at least you know they're showing in the right directions. But obviously working only in one direction is also not going to give you a perfect and nice smooth shading. Luckily with the onion there is a lot of texture going on here. So if it is a bit liney, that's great, as long as those lines are in the correct direction. Alright, so we're nearly done there. People often ask, why do I do this? especially in areas like this. I mean, it's all going to go darker anyway. So you're not going to see any of this tonal value. It's all got to do with that little smoothing out shading that I was showing you earlier on the ball. It's all got to do with that. I'm covering the paper so that then the dark areas, I don't have spider white paper that shines through. I've got the basic tonal value. It's just one of those little tricks that help you make your drawings look more realistic. Alright, so now that I've got that, now I'm going to gradually start building up these tonal values. So let's go to here. So we've got our darkest area over here, and as he curls around closer and closer to the light, he gets lighter. Here's the brightest, there's the highlight. So he goes darker that way, darker that way, darker that way. And now that we're working with a physical object and not just a drawn ball on a piece of paper, can you see how it's working in real life? Going further away from the light, getting darker and darker and darker, because he's physically getting less light. Darker over there, so you've got that little edging, and from there to there, and from there to there, the same distance is going to have the same tonal value. From there to there, tonal value, tonal value, tonal value, all the same. So, well, you know, all these things that we do here in the class, for practice, work in the real world. So I am pressing harder now, but I'm still using the pencil super flat, so I'm not damaging the paper or anything like that. So I'm not going to go anywhere near, if we go to those individual tonal charts of ours, I'm not going to go anywhere those real dark guys where we pressed super hard and almost hurt the paper. Not at all. I'm just laying extra tonal value here, but because I'm keeping the pencil flat, there's no way I'm going to break that lead there before I hurt the paper. So just these darker areas here, I'm immediately just pressing harder and filling them up. So what we're trying to do is just get the darkest tonal value, or the overall tonal value, correct. Okay, so that's as dark as I'm going to go with my 2H in this guy. So now it's time to go over to an H pencil. Now before I start using this guy, I don't know what that little point is going to do when I put him down. So I'll first take my scrap paper and just give him a little test run. So what's going to happen is the way I'm holding it, so like in this case I'm holding it, if I turn my hand upside down, can you see there? I'm holding it sort of in the tips of my fingers, so that when I work, I'm holding it as practically flat against the paper. Now that's the way I want to use it to shade. So by doing a little test run and a little sharpen here on my scrap paper, I know any little sharp edges that would scratch in a little dark line or whatever by mistake aren't there anymore. That's why I always do that little test run on my paper next to the actual drawing itself before I start drawing. Alright, so already my 2H is giving me some lovely extra contrast here, eh? And I'm not pressing hard, I'm letting the pencil do the work. So again, I'm using these little these lines here as a guide. There's green lines on the template. They're showing me which direction to work in. this over here. This whole area needs to go darker. So as you can see, we're still nowhere near the correct total values or anything like that. That's fine. We'll get there. If you find you have to do little curves like this, what I'll do is I'll start off, I'm still using all lines, straight lines, move a little bit, change the angle a little bit. Straight lines, move it up a little bit, change the angle a little bit, and then together it looks like you've got, you've drawn curved lines. Little optical illusion. Right over here, we've got this little shadowy bit over here. So I'll give myself an idea where he's going to go. And that's as good as that guy is going to get. So now it's over to my HB pencil. Okay, and I'll just give him a test run over there. And I'll start in the darkest area, so that in case he goes too dark, then I know, alright, I'm safe. And can you see what's happening? I'm getting layer over layer over layer of pencil. So that's going to give me a nice smooth shading. Well, I must admit, being an onion, I've got lots of texture going on there, so I'm not trying to get a perfect shading. I'm quite happy for some lines to be shining through. As long as those lines are in the right direction. Over here, I think I can start just defining these little edges here a little bit more. So I'm just using the edge. Seeing as we are going darker, because what happens is here where this little piece of skin meets that layer of skin over here, and this guy's peeling loose, what's going to happen is you've got a nice sharp edge there, and that little sharp edge there shows you the distance. So I'm using the corner of my chisel to give me that edge over there. It's about as dark as I'm going to be able to go with the HB. Right, so let's go over to a B pencil. And I'm going to zoom in a bit more to say that area over here. Now let's take a look and see what's going on. This guy over here, because he's loose and he's peeling away, he's catching a different amount of sun, and he may even be a different color, so that's why he's different. But now, to get that distance, to show you the distance between there and there, look at that, you've got a super sharp line, and sometimes you'll even have a little highlight to show that thickness. A super thin highlight. Look over here. This guy is lifted up off that, and look there, we've got a shadow over there. See, it's dark, and he's going lighter. Dark, and he's going lighter. So you've got to look out for those guys, even over here. This guy is throwing a shadow over there, even though it's not quite as intense as, say, over here, but it's darker there, and it's fading out. So full shadow rules apply over there. So we've got to do the same thing over here. So just keep using my corner of the chisel point to get a nice sharp line over here as I darken this guy up. Just gradually build him up. Same with over here, we had a little shading going on there, so sharp against the object, light as we go out. Right. Now to show these, this bit of a rib texture over here, take a look what happens. You'll have, because this little, let's do that one over there, is most prominent, because this line over here is pointing upwards, was higher, physically higher than, say, this area or that area there. This guy, he forms like almost like a little bit of a ridge. So this guy catches more sunlight, and that guy catches less sunlight. So again, look what's happening. You've got a bit of a shading from light, or from darker, a little bit lighter to the next one, and then he cools up and he gets lighter again. You see that? Light, dark, and gradually goes lighter as it cools up. So he's basically doing this kind of a thing, a rounding like that. And that's the kind of thing that we're going to do here. Plus you've still got that normal shading from darker here and lighter there because it's going closer to the light. And now can you see how nice these chisel points work? Because earlier I was doing flat shadings with it like that. Over here, I just needed to turn it like that, and I can use this sharp little point over there to do sharp lines. And now I need to do not very broad shadings, but nice even shadings, and now I'm using that flat edge over there. And that's how your chisel point helps you a lot. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put down just that initial little curvature, and I'm going to avoid the line itself, sort of where they meet. So I'm going to work up to sort of just next to it. And that way I know I'm not losing my little lines there. Alright, I think we can go even a little bit darker over here. So I'm going over to a 2H, and now I can see where this little line is still. So now on this side he's got to go darker. And let's see this guy over here. He comes up something like this. As I go across, I'm not going to go quite as all the way up to there. I'm going to stop before that, so that I keep that little bit of a ridge kind of a line there. Now what you do have to be careful with this is don't make these contrasts between the two too heavy. Otherwise you make those ridges too high, and if you lose your ridge, just use a little chisel point there on the on your kneadable eraser and just lift it out. And so yeah, I do need to go really dark, so actually I think I'm going to go full hog. I'm going to go for a 6B here. Now in here it's really dark, so I'm going to go all the way to a 6B. Like this. I think I can get those running all the way along here. That. And we can quickly fade him away. That. And over here we've got that little here's a piece of skin, there's a piece of skin, and here's a little piece that's broken off in between over here. So this little in-between piece over here is actually darker. So here it seems to be doing something like this. So I'm going to make that dark, the inside piece darker. And that'll make him stand out quite nicely. So it is physically like that on the photograph. And again, as I get to here, I'll make sure I've got a nice little sharp edge. So I'll just turn it, turn the pencil, and make sure I've got that little chisel point. Use that little corner of the chisel. Okay, it casts a little shadow. So quick little fading from that dark line that I've drawn there. Quick little shading out. You see that? And that little shadow has lifted this piece up here already. Okay, so we get that over here, and now same on this side. I'm going to just do a very, very thin little contour line for myself. So I know where the one ends and the other one starts. And that sharp line gives us the distance that we need. Like that. Let's take that over here. We still need to go a bit darker as well. So again, let's just stick to this little sharp edge piece that we've got over here. Alright, now so this guy, because he's got his own little shading. I think let's just a little bit down. Because he's also, again, he's individual. You see there? So this guy is catching sun, and he's catching less and less sun as he curls in underneath. So yeah, underneath we can go nice and dark. So I'm sticking to the 6B, because I know he's going to go as dark as that over here. Like that. But now as he comes out, he's shading lighter and lighter and lighter. I think that's as good as I'm going to get there with the 6B, so let's go over back to, say, a 2B. Further light touch. So all I'm doing now is just laying down that tonal value there. So I'll rather start off with the lightest tonal value, and then we can gradually darken him up again. Like that. Here we're going to have to say go all the way back to a 2H. To get this little piece right over here, because otherwise it's going to go too dark if we stick with 2B. I'm getting a very basic little shading down there. Alright, now I'm going to go back to my 2B over here. Because over here what's happening is we've got this guy, we've got the little piece that's in there like that. I have lost my lines here, but I don't think it's critical that I have, so I'm just drawing this out roughly. That. So mine may not match perfectly the photograph. That's fine. Who's going to know? Nobody's ever going to see the photograph and the picture next to each other. As long as I'm doing in the ballpark what's happening on the photo, that's good enough. Okay, so underneath here is actually the shadow. So I'm going to just leave myself a nice little, again, just a sharp edge over there. I want that guy to stand out. Here again, shadowy piece. Here's shadowy piece. Still darken that up a bit more there. Let's see. Maybe there's an extra little gap over there. And that comes up there like that. Right, so this guy over here needs to shade to show his curvature. And then I'll come back with my my blue tack. So again, I made myself a nice little chisel point, and just here and there, I'll just lift out on that edge, exactly on the edge, just an odd little highlight to push me all the way back to white. And what that does is it just shows that thickness, that little bit of thickness of that little skin. Alright, so now we can continue back to that area over there. You see, it's starting to take shape already, yeah. Okay, Charlie's asking, can you not use a chisel point? Yes, you can, but I feel it makes your life a lot more difficult, especially in a situation like this when we need to change quite often from sharp edges to broad shadings. So you're going to either end up having to sharpen your pencil often. Alright, so I am still here with the 2B. Darkening up this little edge over here. So you're sort of making a lot of work for yourself because you're going to end up sharpening your pencils every 2 minutes and then flattening them out to do shadings and stuff like that. So it's just easier using the chisel point, but it's up to you. I mean, I can't force you to use the chisel point. That's just what I use because that works for me. That's all. Right, so I'm going to go all the way to a 6B here because this is really dark in this area. It's really, really dark. And again, we've got that little lighter patch. Let's get back to this guy over here. You see it's dark in this area, yeah, almost like a bit of a triangle. And then the next little rib or whatever you want to call it is lighter again. So I want to work that in. I like that. And that's one of those things that gives this guy his texture. And then here I've got that looking in effect with that other little skin that's peeling away. So that's got to be really dark over there. And as it comes up, it fades lighter. And here's another little darker patch over there. A darker and a lighter patch. You see here, I need to get that sharp edge, and I can just turn my pencil. I don't need to go and look for my mechanical pencil or sharpen my point or anything like that. I've got it, it's there. Okay, there's a little bit of a reflected light over there, so I'm just going to lift him out. So again, I'm making a way to light and then I push him back to get his tonal value correct. And then as he comes around over here, it's gradually getting lighter and lighter, so I'm going to press softer and softer. And that gives me the rounding. Alright, so over here we've got that little rib. So I'll start off by this side of the rib, and I'll work that way, pressing gradually lighter and lighter. And can you see how those two ribs have differentiated themselves quite quickly, eh? Same thing, just carry on, the same thing just keeps happening as we go along. Darker to lighter. Okay, now I think I'll have to just go over to an HB for a while. Just to get my tonal value correct in this area here. It is still quite stripy and everything. I think that's fine. Now we can go back to say a 2B. Because this guy is not quite as dark. Let's say that side there, so we can't stick with a 6B. We've got to use a softer pencil. Can you see a nice little ribbed effect coming along there? And let's say we want this thinner, that super thin little line, so I'm going to soften that up but not make him disappear. Just laying some more tonal value there so it is not white. Don't want that to be white. And now again you just take your little chisel point on the blue tack, squeeze a little chisel point, and then just tap, 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 tap up, and that gives me that thin little line there, that over there. Easy peasy, really. Okay, now let's say for example you got this area over here and is ended up too dark. Then take the back edge of your kneaded eraser and just roll him over there on that round part, and that'll lighten him up. And if that doesn't go light enough, use the round edge of your blue tack. You see there? Easy peasy, only 2 ticks, you've got light over there. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to sort of avoid that area over there. Okay, let's go all the way back to say a 2H. I want to avoid this area over here because that's where my highlight is. You see that? There's actually a bit of a reflection over there. So I'm avoiding that. So all the time in my mind I'm seeing the ball, that little shaded ball. I'm seeing that. So I don't get carried away with all the textures and forget that in essence this thing is just a shaded ball with some extra textures to it. So you've still got to get that rounding right. And those basic textures that you're going to be seeing inside the ball, or those basic shadings rather. Going darker the further away it goes from the light. Alrighty, so here, let's work in a little bit of a rib over here as well. Right. And I think over here we can just go a little bit darker to this edge, just to complete that rounding there. That's fine. Now I'm going to press quite a bit harder, because I want to, not quite a bit, but I'm going to press harder just to re-establish that shadow that we've got over there. I'm just making sure I can see a little bit of a rib defect over there, and that the rib is following the rounding. Okay, so let's go over to say 2B. And let's get this shadow in over here. So this is a shadow cast by this extra little leaf. That skin, I keep on recording a leaf. That little skin over there that's pulled loose. So I know over here is touching, so that's even, the 2B is not dark enough. So I know here is touching, so it's going to give me a the darker shadow. And as we go out, it's going to go lighter and lighter. Like this. And then he curls around, goes all the way down here like that. Get a nice sharp edge there on that edge. There's a found line, because there's distance between the onion itself and the skin. And there's a little bit of, just a little bit of reflected light. Or something over there. Right, so let's see if we can just go here, just darkening that up a little bit, not too much. And let's darken this area up over here. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good over there. Let's work on this funny little piece over here.